Welcome back to another episode of Water from the Rock. I'm one half of your host, Marquis.
I am the other half, Free Mel.
And today we have a extremely, very, very special guest kicking off season 3 for us. And without further ado, I'm just going to be quiet. I'm going to let Free jump right in and introduce you guys to this illustrious guest that we have on our show today.
You all could be anywhere in the world.
But you're here with us.
And
we appreciate that.
And we are introducing a friend of ours, friend of the pod. Bronx born.
Drum roll.
Georgetown, matriculated. Flower City, living.
Big brain.
He's a son.
Big brain.
He's a husband.
Mm-hmm.
He's a father.
Yeah.
He's a sommelier. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Definitely get into it.
Mr. Shomari Smoak.
Mr. Shomari Smoak. Welcome to the show, Smoak.
Thank you so much.
How you feeling, man?
Man, feeling so good, man. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me onto the podcast.
You're here.
Kicking off season 3. I love what you guys are doing. I love that you're highlighting so many illustrious people from the city of Rochester.
Very much appreciate it.
And I'm so glad to be a part of this, man. It's such an opportunity, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you, man.
Thank
I love
you.
it. Like I said, we're glad to have you and excited that you are kicking off our season 3 of the Water from the Rock podcast. Real quick, thank you guys for supporting us so much. We're very appreciative of the love, the support, everything you guys have done.
Absolutely.
Helping us to get this far. Support definitely shows, and we appreciate you. Free and I both are constantly working, and like we told you before, we're a 2-man crew running this or whatever. So thank you guys so much, or what have you. And without further ado, we're not going to talk too much or whatever. Let's jump right into it. Free.
So we're here to celebrate you. You know, we appreciate you. We met you at a tasting at Baytown, and it was our pleasure. So we like to bring flowers, start with a celebration. So we're glad you're here. We're looking to learn from you, and you give us some water, as well as everyone that's listening and tuning in. So
Absolutely.
We start from the beginning. You know, born and raised in the Bronx.
The BX.
You know,
Born and raised in the South Bronx. Shout out to my people over at Concourse Village. Concourse Village. I used to live in Concourse Village East. There's a Concourse Village East and there's a Concourse Village West. So I was in I was on that side. And man, it was an upbringing that taught me a lot about myself and who I am, the type of dynamic that I want to create with other people. Strict Christian household. My mother ran a tight ship there. And but she showed love when she could, and she showed love through her food. She showed love with her knowledge, with her strong Christian beliefs, and she instilled that in all of us. And I believe that upbringing sort of has helped me become the man that I am today. And a lot of those principles that I learned from being in the Bronx has definitely sort of guided my way through the decisions that I've made, and it's what got me to here today.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Most nostalgic moment or memory of the Bronx.
Nostalgic moment, memory of the Bronx, man. It's funny, we were just talking about this a little bit, but yeah, I am a big Yankee fan. Again, being in the South Bronx, I lived.
Pardon me, Yankees. I'm repping the PGA today, but I'll be back next week.
I got my shout out to my boy. Shout out to my boy Adam. Got my chicken out rock fitted on. It's probably gonna come off, but I want to show you some love real quick. But man, I grew up a couple blocks away from the stadium, and one of the best feelings in the world is when you have the World Series basically in your backyard.
Literally.
Amazing.
In your backyard. And what's great about it too was I remember, sort of being in my room, World Series is coming on, was watching TV in the living room, and all of a sudden the room starts shaking.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, yo, is this what's happening like on the TV? And come to find out,
crazy. You
come out on your balcony, and mind you, our balcony always was full of stuff, so you're trying to meander through. Yeah. But then the balcony's shaking, you're like, I don't know if this is stable kind of thing. But it's because of the raucous noise and the people just super excited about, the Yankees playing and, just having those kind of like moments being there. It's unbelievable. And it wasn't even just like honestly being there in that moment, but also looking at other people's balconies and seeing other people, just trying to watch. Again, you can't watch, you just see the stadium in the distance, but we're all sort of in this moment together. We got the TVs on in the background. We're sharing this moment together. Again, this is before iPhones. This is before Instagram. It's just everybody sort of like being in the moment. You got the TV.
Moment, right.
You got the TV that you got to turn the switch with the wrench type stuff. I had those kind of TVs and stuff.
Talk about it.
My mom didn't upgrade the TV. That's what we had. So we had
before
the
the
CRT.
flat screens.
Before the flat screens, we had the
round
CRT, the Zeniths. We had that happening, man. But it was like, it was such a moment to feel like, this is not just, this is not just New York. This is the Bronx. This is where I'm from. And it's so important in my life. But yeah, man, it's just such a beautiful moment.
Birthplace of hip hop.
Yeah, man.
KRS-One.
KRS-One.
Willie Mays.
Africa Band Bottom. Zulu Nation,
for sure.
all that, man. Yeah, absolutely, man. Hip hop is big.
Bronx.
Yeah, for sure, man. So
I love it.
funny story, actually. I know we talked about hip hop a little bit, man. I mean, hip hop wasn't even that big in my household when I was growing up. Yeah, man. I mean, again, as I said, strong Christian.
I was going to say, I can see that. Your
Michael,
mother was a Christian.
My
Turn
sister,
that devil music on.
I know she wasn't with it, man. So I mean, we listened to my sister, my oldest sister Aisha. Listened to a lot of
Shout out to you, Aisha.
Christian contemporary music. So like, I mean, Stephen Curtis Chapman and Michael W. Smith, and then but I also grew up on like the BBC Winans and those kind of gospel singers and all that kind of stuff. We had a lot of Christian influence in the household, but when I got older, my sister and my sister Shawnee and I, we got a hold of my oldest sister's boombox. Her little, she brought it home from school.
Okay.
And we would, sneak in and listen to a little Hot 97.
Yeah.
We had the little, we had the little tape cassettes in there. We trying to
dropping
record
the bombs.
I'm saying Mr. C and Flex and those guys. We trying to listen to it, all the latest music coming out and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So my first ever album I owned was a Jay-Z album. We owned the Jay-Z The Dynasty album. I got it as it was a Kris Kringle gift, and I tried to hide it from my mom, but I left it in the CD player once, and she was trying to play one of her gospel CDs, and she found it. And she took it from me,
and she
hid it from me. I couldn't find it, and then I found it, and I kept putting it back in the same spot. I learned my lesson.
Man, I know. I don't want to ask you this, but I'm gonna ask. What's your favorite song on the Dynasty?
This is food for
I'm
thought.
sorry.
You do the dishes.
Oh man, Do the Dishes is a good one. Yeah. Man, it's been so long since I listened to the album. I'm not gonna lie to you.
We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it at some point. But it's been. I mean, man, it's been so long since.
Got so many hits.
1-900 Hustler.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Okay. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go on. You mentioned BB and CeCe Winans.
Yeah.
I just seen CeCe Winans on the Christian Music Awards. She's favorite.
She's
favorite.
Favorite.
God favored her.
Donnie McClurkin.
I don't know about her.
Y'all never heard of Donnie?
No, I know about him.
We know about
I know about him.
Oh man, but again, this is the type of music I was like. Again, I was listening to in my household, and it's just like it was. Again, it was all about church. It's all about Christianity in our house. So
dope stuff.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the Bronx, Concourse Village, planted the foundation, but then you ended up in Georgetown. That's a big move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
What took you to
Georgetown
my goodness.
University? So I knew probably going into high school, I was trying to get up out of New York. I didn't want to be in New York anymore. I was like, I want to, be able to go to school somewhere else. I want to experience life differently. I want to experience different cultures. I did 7th grade. I did this program called the Higher Achievement Program at Fordham Prep, associated with Fordham University. And that was the first time I was like interacting with like, white people and like, people that, of affluence, like, affluential people that had like a lot of money and all these experiences, telling me all these places that they were going to in New York City that I never experienced. And then I started realizing, there's more to just like sort of the Bronx than what I was, sort of used to. The four corners of the Bronx, as my Professor Hummel will talk about back in U.S. history. I remember we had a moment where we're in class and we were just not getting the concept. And this kid, Vinny, just like loses his mind and, says something sort of like outlandish. And
Vinny, that is such a Bronx name.
Oh man, Vinny.
Vinny from the Bronx.
I haven't said that name in forever, man. But Vinny closed the textbook.
I'm Vinny. I'm from the Bronx. Huh?
Anyway, Professor Hummel closes the textbook and like launches it across the room, like launches the textbook. And he he opens up all the curtains. Opens up all the curtains in the room. He was like, gentlemen, look outside. He was like, the world extends further beyond what you see out here. He was like, there's more to the world than what you see out here. Like, you guys are trying to go to these higher institutions and you want to sort of live and be able to do stuff. You need to understand that the world extends beyond that of the Bronx. It's like, once you start to get that and understand that, the more successful you will be and the more opportunities you will have. So, so anyway, I just applied all over and I got in a bunch of different schools, but Georgetown gave me a really, really nice financial aid package. And I didn't get a chance to go on many college tours. We did. I did some HBCU,
which is rare with that being this prestigious university that it is.
But I mean, again, when you're in the hood, I didn't have money, so I didn't know people. I didn't know people took their children on college tours. I didn't know that was like a thing. Like, hey, we're on the weekend, we're gonna go to Stanford. On the weekend, we're gonna go to. I didn't do any of that. So the only college tour I went to was a historically Black college university tour, where we went down into the Carolinas, went down to a couple other places, and they put in schools for me. Because they were like, oh, Shomari is applying to Duke, or Shomari is applying to Hopkins. He's applying to Georgetown. Let's try to incorporate these schools into the tour and see if we can make this work.
For medicine?
For this is for undergrad.
Oh, undergrad.
For undergrad, yeah.
Okay.
So then what eventually happened was I was able to visit the school once, and I visited one more time with my family. And my mom didn't want me to go to UVA, even though they gave me more money. And she was just like, no, it's too social for you. I know you're a social butterfly, so I want you to go to. You go up M Street, and it's gorgeous. Got the cherry blossoms out, and everybody's out there. Everybody's happy.
It's M Street.
M Street is like the major thoroughfare that like gets you. It's like the major like commercials area in Georgetown.
Okay.
And it's got all these shops. It's got all these boutique restaurants. It's got all these boutique shops and everything that you know of. Everybody goes to M Street to shop and do whatever. So you're driving up this on your way into sort of like near the gates, which is on O Street, and you're just seeing all of this, and you're just taking it all in. I'm like, again, I know about projects. I know about skyscrapers and high rise, and I'm going to this area, and I'm just like, this is stunning.
That's what I was going to ask. How was that feeling leaving those, like you said, those four corners from the Bronx to being somewhere?
BX to DC.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming because first of all, I was like, I've never seen. I mean, outside of being even in downtown New York City, it's a melting pot. You see sort of everything. It's the first time where I was just like, man, it's all white people. Like it's just like it's crazy. Like it feels very monochromatic, but at the same time, it's always like it felt so inviting.
Way to put it.
Yeah, it felt so inviting. And it was one of those things where you step on campus and everybody's like greeting you and saying hi and giving you. They're giving you T-shirts and pamphlets, and they're telling you about all the institutions.
And you were the quintessential New Yorker,
correct?
Why are you talking to me? Head down.
I was like, mind your business, kind of like move out the way. But then the barriers start to come down a little bit because you feel that invitation. You start to feel welcome.
Yeah.
By the time we were done with the tour and seeing all the classrooms, I was like, I think this is it. And also too, it gave me easy access to get back to New York City because of the buses that they used to run out of there.
And what, 6-hour drive essentially?
Yeah, but I mean, again, we didn't drive. I mean, I only know mass transit, so I could hop on. It used to be called. They had a Van Moose bus out in Roslyn, which was next door, or you took the boat bus, which was down in the city. You could take the train down to the boat bus, and they take the boat bus up to. It drops you off at Hudson Yards, and then you just take the train back home. So that was the way I was able to get back and forth, and I only had to spend. It was like $40 a ticket. If I knew early enough when I needed to leave, it was like $30 a ticket. But yeah, I ended up staying there for 4 years, and it was a difficult 4 years. But it was also an exciting and fun 4 years. I mean, friendships that I have to this day, came from Georgetown as well. So, but it definitely set me up for understanding exactly where I was, not only academically, but socially and professionally as well. So.
And that's where you got your bug for medicine, where your first
a little bit. So honestly,
so this is the transitioning part, transitioning from 4 years to medicine.
A little bit. So what ended up happening was, again, I didn't clarify this enough, and I apologize for that, but medicine was always a part of my life.
Okay.
I used to read Ben Carson books. So Gifted Hands, The Big Picture, Think Big, like where you had the acronyms of everything that you should be sort of analyzing. So that was stuff that was given to me even in my own church.
Okay.
So because everybody knew I wanted to be a doctor, even then I was like, oh, I would want to be a neurosurgeon like Ben Carson. So there was that. The institution and what I should have done was really targeted an undergrad institution that was really going to curate my mind for medicine. And I just chose it because of the fact that it had a medical school associated to it. And that was probably one of the things that hurt me the most. Because Georgetown, honestly, is not only just known for their basketball program, but they're really known for their international studies programs, as well as their like political science stuff.
I've heard a lot about law,
DC.
Law, things like that. Exactly. So it was like, I didn't technically choose the right school that was going to help me as a young Black student coming from the Bronx to try to get into medical school.
Sure.
Right.
Like I honestly felt like I was on an island even after the first class. There was times I couldn't find a professor, the assistant TAs, didn't really speak much English and didn't have many study hours. Like if you wanted to find a tutor, there were no free tutors. You had pamphlets everywhere and like flyers everywhere saying, hey, we got tutoring, but you have to pay. And I was like, I
So
don't have money like that.
Did it almost feel like I'm trying to like relating it to like being in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. So it's
100%.
like you're like out of water, you're fish out of water,
100%.
and it's like, man, like how do I navigate this?
How do I navigate
without
this?
that direction or mentorship or guidance, so to speak.
And then you're also on a campus where you don't see a lot of people that look like you and that sound like you and that come from that have similar experiences to you. And the ones that did already knew each other because there was a whole scholars program that they got into before school started. So they all kind of clicked up.
And that starts affecting you psychologically, your confidence, everything.
Correct. So that all affected me. And then it just got to the point where I just felt like I went from being on an island to just literally just trying to survive on that island for 4 years. Now, mind you, in that process, I found great friends that weren't in the sciences and weren't in medicine, who I truly love to this day. But when it came to the science and medicine aspect of it, it was very, very lackluster.
Yes.
So from that point, I graduated from school. I'll tell you a little story about this. The best and worst day of my life was graduation day.
Best and worst day.
Best, worst day of my life.
You got a kid, so you say best and worst days. This better be good.
Best
for your wife's sake.
Best and worst day of my life. My mom gets there, and again, and I love my mom. She was strict. She didn't say I love you many times, right? And the times I could count on my hand, the number of times she did is usually when we had a big moment in our lives, and usually it was graduation.
Sure.
So my mom's there excited. I'm in my cap and gown. Everybody looks great. I got my, my African stole on, a black man, graduated from Georgetown, is a big deal. They say, hey,
can take off.
Yeah. But it was a whole thing. It was great. And and then what ended up happening was they like, hey, go to your department. So I graduated with a psych degree, bio minor. They were like, go to your department, get your diploma. Mind you, diploma is in like all Latin, by the way.
Yes,
it's just only thing you see is your name. But my mom was like, I don't care. She was like, as long as I see your name, you're good.
Yeah.
So I end up getting my diploma. I'm opening it up because she's like, I need to see this. I need to see this. A paper falls out of the diploma so she's seen my diploma and it's my transcript. And it said every single class, every single grade. It had my rank. It had my GPA. And it was like it was
trash.
It was garbage. And mind you, I already knew what it was going in, but I've never seen it all condensed into like, it was like your whole, it was like, here's your 4 years. But then again, happiest day, but it was just like, I'm with my friends, I graduated, I made this big accomplishment, but then it was like, oh shit, what next?
So what did she say?
Oh, she never saw it.
Oh, she
never saw it. She never saw it fall out. I grabbed the paper because she was celebrating with the security guard in the library that we saw. My first day of school there was there on my last day of school.
So it affected you more.
It affected me more. Because we go to dinner after. We usually do like a celebration dinner after every time we graduate. And I'm like downtrodden and solemn, and she's thinking it's because they're acting up in the restaurant and they're embarrassing me, that kind of thing. And I was like, part of it, but the other part of it is that like I saw my record. I've never had a transcript look this bad, and I was like, I don't know where to go from here. I was like, I know I want to be a physician. I know I want to contribute to medicine, but like, how can I do that?
So
with such
it's
low
deflating
GPA?
when it comes to the confidence.
Yeah.
But you knew, looking at that, you knew that wasn't gonna cut it.
Correct. I knew that wasn't gonna cut it, but I did not know what was next because now I have school loans that are about to come up pretty soon that I have to start paying for. I have this GPA, which I cannot apply for any scholarships to grad school with this kind of GPA and this kind of remarks. Who am I gonna ask for recommendations for school? I know I need to start working. So that's when I started working in the local hospitals in DC. And trying to stay in medicine, trying to stay immersed as possible. But even then, like even with the medicine, I still wasn't even touching wine at this time.
I was gonna ask.
It was all. I mean, I started like drinking. Excuse me. In college, when it was like jungle juice in freshman year. By the time it was senior year, my buddy Phil actually put me on like I've never said this before. Sorry, Mom. Where he put me on a beer program because he was like, if we're gonna be hosting parties. You got to learn how to drink beer, that kind of thing. Sure. So he ended up putting me on program, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, we barely even touching wine at the time. Wine didn't come till like way later into my 20s. But yeah, I still had a mission of wanting to be a physician. I was like, well, let me just start working, and I used my EMT license to get a tech job in DC, and then basically started working at Washington Hospital Center in DC.
Very cool.
So yeah.
So from our research, not going too far in the future where we are now in Rochester, you ended up meeting someone who kind of sparked that. Oh yeah, that something in you. Tell us about that.
Man, my wife, my love of my life, Kayla, Doctor Kayla Dewey. She
say it with your chest. Say it
with your Doctor.
Yeah.
No,
acronym in the front and the back. Dr. MD.
MD, board certified. Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah. No PhDs over here.
No PhD, MD, all day, every day.
Love it.
Yeah. So we actually, funny enough, we first met when I worked on the cardiac, we worked in the cardiac ICU. She was a resident at the time, like I knew of her kind of thing, but it was like 2 ships passing the night. Like I'm doing tech stuff, like working with machines and all that kind of stuff.
That's
And
a
she's,
fun one. We
I
have
like
used
that.
that phrase.
Yeah, yeah.
2 ships passing
two
in the
ships,
night.
yeah. We knew of each other, but it was just like, okay, cool, great. But you're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing, no big deal. And it wasn't until like I was already working in the emergency department doing a lot of ultrasound education, ultrasound IVs as a part of my job. Because when you're a tech in the emergency department in DC, they kind of give you as much free reign as you need to do your job. So it was like as long as you had an EMT license, I could put in IVs, I could put in ultrasound IVs, I can, I was running codes, I was doing like everything, splints, the works, I was doing everything. And our paths kept crossing because she was doing a fellowship, a bedside ultrasound fellowship. So she did finish residency and she basically was around for the year doing that. So she was educating other residents. She was also learning on her own. She was doing conferences every week, things like that. But our paths kept crossing because, she'd be with a critical patient who needs like an echo and some other sort of like ultrasound guidance, while I needed to do their ultrasound IV because they didn't have any veins.
Sure.
So it was one of those things where we just kept running into each other. And she would say that we were flirting. I would say I wasn't flirting that much because I'm a professional. But no,
I'm at work, girl.
Yeah, I'm trying to do my thing. I'm running 3 units. No,
all right, no front smoke. Who bagged who?
She bagged me. She bagged me. And then her story will be different. Her story, what she was saying, her story was when we were at the holiday party.
No, there's only one story. Her version.
Her version of the story was, again, I remember her in this holiday party and she was wearing this red dress and all I remember was boobs. It was a lot of it. It was that red dress, whatever. Right? I remember that.
He bagged her.
She says that I guess I talked to her the next day because she had to leave. She had to leave early. She had to leave early.
The day to dress in the book. You bagged her.
Let me tell the story. She had to leave early. And she says that I told her the next day, if I had a couple more minutes with you in that dress, I would have done something. That's what she said.
You said that to her?
She said I said that. I don't see myself saying something like that out of my mouth, but that's what she said.
And you wasn't in the wine yet.
No, I wasn't in the wine yet. What she told me, or what I remember from her was it was an early shift. We're like talking, whatever, and then she's like, "Oh, you should probably take me out on a date sometime," and walks off with like the ultrasound machine. And she's like tiny, so she's just like walking off with her like little machine. And I'm like looking around like, did anybody just hear that? And then we started, Facebook messaging, like DM, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then we had a random date in Chinatown, and she's like, oh, did anybody tell you I'm like moving to Rochester? I was like, number one, where is Rochester?
Where is that?
I was like, where is that?
Minnesota?
I was like, number two. I was like,
forgive him for that. By
yeah,
the way.
I was like, number two. I was like, I don't know what circles you think we run around, but like we don't. I was like, how am I supposed to know this information about that? This is the first time I'm hearing about it. But yeah, that's how it sort of all started.
Since we're on her, giving her
that's
flower,
a dope story.
Yeah.
her love. What has she taught you? We kind of talked about it offline. What is she from a kid being from the Bronx? What else have your wife taught you?
Honestly, man, it's really just having a partner that is super supportive in everything that you do. There's never a time where she told me no. And what I mean by that is when I remember we're in Pittsburgh, and mind you, we're already like we're like sort of 8-9 months into dating now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I know like, okay, this is probably
It's
it.
the
Like
one.
I knew very early, but even then, I am in tears in this bar called the Beehive in Pittsburgh because I felt like I was holding a secret from her because I didn't tell her about my intentions of wanting to be a physician.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. I know, and we're probably thinking about moving up to Rochester, but like I've always had this on my heart that I wanted to be a physician. And I was like, I need you to support me in this because I don't know if I can let this dream go. And she was taken aback because she was like, she's basically done with training. She's an attending now, full attending.
Yeah.
Like she's like to go through another 7-8 years of
That's a grind.
It's a lot.
Basically, like she's like, I don't got time to babysit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's in her early 30s. She's like, she wants to start like family life, things like that. And so it was a lot. And then she was like, okay. She was like, whatever you need. She's like, let me know. She's like, let's figure this out. She's like, you're gonna have to do a post-bac program. Like your grades aren't great. She's like, you're gonna have to do a post-bac program. You're gonna have to get recommendations. She was like, I will support you, but like I'm not gonna. She's like, I can't completely hold your hand through this. You got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So when I moved up to Rochester, I basically applied to the post-bac program, didn't get in. And then I took biology and chemistry, which, by the way, all these classes I already took in college, but I was taking them all over again.
For fresh
taking
grades,
all over again.
grades,
And at the end of them, I got really good grades in both. Like my first ever A I've never seen on a college transcript.
Okay.
I got like an A. There was like A and like a B+ in chemistry.
Shout out to your grades.
Yeah, Professor Clark and Professor Haffensteiner, and I would see them. I talk to them all the time, and I was like, "Hey, can you give me a recommendation? I'm trying to apply for this program." They were like, "Absolutely." Gave me a recommendation, glowing recommendation, and they accepted me in the program. And it was like head on from there. And I was doing all the medical stuff. Now, granted, at the time, I was already starting to get into wine, and she was introducing me to that. I can tell you the story about that in a second, but basically her love of wine sort of started to get me into wine, and wine sort of became this escape for me. Yes. Whereas like I was walking into wine stores, I was meeting people, I was browsing shelves. It became like sort of my place of peace. Yeah. Kind of thing, without even me being in an industry. I was meeting people in the industry without even knowing. Yeah. But it was just like this place felt so comfortable for me. And I was like, man, I never really felt comfort like this. And that should have been like the first signs that, okay, maybe there's something to this, but I was still sort of hung up on doing it. This is everything that I want to know. No way my dream was to be a scientist. It was always to be in medicine. You
say your mom's a Christian.
Yes.
You were essentially, as her generation would say, God was telling you to do something and you was doing what
ignoring
Smoak
it. I was doing what Smoak wanted to do. That's what I was. Yeah, and it was
Easter Sunday. How dare you?
Yeah. I know. He is risen on this day, and I'm talking about how I'm ignoring what is sort of in front of me, and it's one of those things where, again, still pursuing the medicine. I feel like I'm going on with this, and I apologize.
It's all right. Go ahead.
It just got to the point where I finished the post-grad program. I got a really good GPA, and then it came down to the MCAT, and it didn't quite work out. I found out in that process that I had ADHD, inattentive disorder. I had a reading comprehension disorder I didn't know about, where I was basically reading at a very low, like comprehending at a very, very elementary. I did not realize that. And I'm like, I've read Isabel Wilkerson books, and I've read Kazuo Ishiguro. I've read all these books. And it was like, but how much of it are you absolutely absorbing? They were like,
reading Ben Carson.
I was reading Ben Carson, but it was like, but then I was realizing, when I read, I have to like underline, I have to reread passages, I have to write, I have to do all these things to try to really absorb it, versus like someone who has a really good reading comprehension can read it and just start to comprehend and understand
it. Read and absorb it as you're reading it.
How was that feeling where you found that out? You spent these years going after this goal, but then you found out you have this disorder. How was that?
It was honestly, it was a massive relief off my shoulders.
Really? Because I would think in my head initially, I'm like, I was about to finish the sentence for you. Like, you had to be depressed.
I was sad about it initially, but then it explained so much.
It all made sense.
It all made sense.
Like pieces of a puzzle coming
Correct.
together.
It was like when I was, there's a test you need to take to get into high school, the co-op exam. And I scored poorly on that. So I couldn't get into the even though I got into school, I couldn't get into honors courses initially. And then the advisors or the leaders in the school, in my high school, were like, we made a mistake. We accepted other people. We should have accepted you. We're going to put you in now, but we only go by co-op scores. When I got into college, when I took the SATs 3 times, and my SAT score was the same. I did prep courses. I did the books, everything. Always the same. I always struggled not only with standardized exams, but big final exams when you have to when you have to combine all the information together. And it was like, those should have been like the highlights for someone to be like, hey, have you ever been tested before? Has anybody ever psychologist ever talked to you and said, hey, let's check you out. Let's figure out what's going on with you. And it wasn't
with you, man. Three with the SAT, 3 with the MCAT.
It was a lot. Yeah, because usually by the time you take your third one, it's like, you know what your score is going to be, and you know what your trajectory is. It's enough data points for you to know exactly where you're going. And it was one of Kayla's mentors that pulled me to. We were sitting in Starbucks. She was like, you should get tested, because this sounds like the hallmarks of some of the students I'm working with at U of R who didn't find out till after they got into medical school. They're struggling with their tests. Maybe you should check this out. And it wasn't. So once I found all that out, I got all that information. I was like, fantastic. Let me send this off, because they'll tell you, hey, you just need extra time with the test.
Right. Sure.
Sent it off to the board that runs the MCAT, and they sent me a message back that was like, yeah, so we understand what you're saying, but we need more information. I was like, I don't have any more information. They were like, we need more proof, and we'll give you extra breaks. And I was like, I don't need extra breaks. I need more time with the test. I need more time with the sections.
That's a long test.
And it's an 8-hour exam.
Yeah, no.
And I was trying to add more time to that exam, But even in my prep, as I instituted more time in my study prep, my scores were going up. So I was like, clearly, it's not like I don't know the information. I got really good grades in my post-bac program. I understand the content. It's just the cohesiveness of it all. I needed to figure it out. And I didn't get the opportunity. So it was at that point where I was like, okay, I need to take a step.
Yeah.
I need to take a step away. I need to stop. I need to like sort of recalculate my life because I'm on a trajectory where it can go real bad. And also, by the way, by the time I was done with my post-bac, I was close to 500 pounds. I was living out of vending machines and takeout. I wasn't living the healthiest lifestyle. Like my libido was low. Like everything was just off. And I was like, if I'm doing this and this is my post-bac program, imagine what would happen to me if I actually got into medical school.
Because it's a
one
bigger
of the things
grind.
I thought about
bigger,
and avoid it.
Yeah. And it was one of the, and again, it was like,
listen.
Yeah, I had to start. Once I took that step back, then I had to really reevaluate everything. I was going to my.
Damn, she's giving me chills thinking about dope stuff, man.
Yeah.
Dope stuff.
But that's the
dope
real
stuff.
of it, you know. And I'm like, and I feel like at that time I felt like, you know, am I failing myself am I giving up? I was like, this has been my dream for so long. I feel so close. Am I giving up on my dream? Am I giving up on myself as not only like as a Black man, but like as somebody who's trying to be representative of the community? By me giving up, am I showing other Black children that they can't do it? Like, what is it? Like I had to deal, and I'm still dealing with a lot of those feelings and emotions.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you feel this sense of loss of your identity, but also just of this dream that you had that you felt like you deferred it for so long. You're like letting it go and now trying to figure out, okay, what is next?
Are you at peace with that right now?
Am I at peace with that now? It is something that I still daydream in medicine. I'll be on a treadmill and I'll be running a full code. Well, like I could be listening to Jada Kiss, Knock Yourself Out. And I could be running an entire code from start to finish in my head, intubating, IV, drugs, compressions, like I could be writing stuff. Like I could be doing the entire thing. Okay, I have a person that the whole setup. Oh, trying to get somebody to cath lab.
How do you get past that? What's your?
Wow.
Oh man, how do I get past that? I married the idea of what I'm doing now and the successes that I'm having now to me being on the right path. Like I had to fight for everything in medicine. Everything. Every moment that I had to fight for. And it felt like I kept climbing up this hill that I could not get to the top of. Versus everything that I've started in wine has always felt natural and easy and where I needed to be. And I've never felt like that in my entire life when it came
That's
to
a good feeling, right?
It's
a hell of a good
best
feeling.
feeling in the world.
Hell of a feeling.
So let's stay right there for a minute.
Yeah.
Transitioning to wine. How did you get introduced to wine?
So my wife first, she funny story, she was actually babysitting a colleague of hers child. And by the way, this is the time when she was doing her bedside ultrasound fellowship. And at the end of it, she was like, her friend was like, am I supposed to pay you? She's like, no, we're both doctors. Like, don't pay me. Like, oh, I got something for you. She brings her a bottle of 2014 Turley Pezenti Zinfandel. And she brings it to my house because I was staying in this house on First Street. And she was like, hey, we got to try this.
First Street.
Between
Ben Clifford.
First Street in DC.
Oh, I was gonna say you think about wine on First Street here in Rochester. Wow,
my man went somewhere else. No, let me specify. I'm still in DC at the time. I didn't know where Rochester existed at the time.
Okay, yeah. I'm tripping.
No, it's all good. I sent you down.
Yeah, I was like, whoa. See,
No.
On that note, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll jump right back into this with part 2 of this, where we'll get into Smoak's full wine journey or whatever.
On
First Street Northwest.
Yeah. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with the great Shomari Smoak. Free, how you feeling?
Blessed and highly favored.
Blessed and highly favored. I'm feeling blessed and highly favored as well.
Feeling
Real
good.
quick before we jump back into getting into the Pierre Resistance, as we would like to call this, the wine portion of our good homie Smoak here and his journey or whatever, I want to give a few shout outs or what have you. First and foremost, Sense by Design, in keeping with the theme of the good guy Smoak being on the pod or whatever. If you notice, we got a couple nice wine books, the Wine Bible, Wine Encyclopedia, but most importantly, Sense by Design. Sense by Design, looking forward to creating our custom fragrance with her. Christina over at Sense by Design, she'll be creating a smell for us or what have you, and we have her special wine tour fragrance burning here in the area today or what have you.
Smells good.
So yeah, be sure to check out Sense by Design. Her links will be in the description below. And moving on from there, really, really excited about, we're going to let Smoak give you more information on this or whatever, but we have the Oregon by the great Andre Hueston Mack. This is what Free and I are sipping on.
Yeah, usually I sip on some bourbon, but
yeah.
When in Rome,
I had to introduce you, bless you with some white wine from Oregon, man. Andre Hueston Mack, man, I love Andre Hueston Mack. He is an expert sommelier. Worked at Per Se, worked at the French Laundry. Now runs his own business, the Maison Noir business. He has his own sort of marketing team, but he also just makes these beautiful wines. And what I love about the Oregonian wine, it is basically Burgundy expression in an Oregon wine, which I love a lot. So it's 100% Chardonnay. It's sort of his higher level Chardonnay, so you can definitely get the aromatics that you have in there. Even though it's a neutral grape, it's still beautifully expressive. You get that beautiful sort of like orchard fruit that shines through, as well as a little bit of that stone fruit quality that comes through. So you get a little bit of that peach in there as well, which is wonderful. You get a little bit of melon too, a little unripe melon, which I like a lot, and also a tad bit of a citrus quality, more of a Meyer lemon that really shows through in the wine.
And the same latitude line as Burgundy.
Correct,
Oregon,
correct.
Right?
So that's why you see a lot of that sort of like Burgundy expression in Oregon.
Yep.
So when you have that, and you again minimal oaking, and you just get sort of this maximum like beautiful flavor. Usually they're using a lot of like, French oak in their wines as well, because they don't want a ton of that oak influence. When you have this sort of like cooler climate, you don't need it.
Confusing with those California wines.
Correct. So you have, again, California wines, and explain.
No shot at California, by the way.
Yeah, but with California wines, again, the reason why they use a lot of oak is because they need to balance out a lot of that sort of like riper, sort of tropical rich
Hot
fruit
soil,
that really shows in their wine as well. Oregon, in a slightly sort of cooler climate, you can really let the fruit sort of do an expression as well. Yeah, it's got that sort of wetness as well. But again, you manage that sort of like that hydric stress with proper drainage and things like that as well. So you want to make sure you're regulating all those things.
Same guy that made OPP, right?
Same guy that makes our people,
OPP,
OPP, which is fantastic. Beautiful Pinot Noir that's around $20 if you're trying to find a nice value deal on Pinot Noir, but a Pinot Noir that's absolutely stunning and really sort of typical of that Oregon region. It's a fantastic option. I highly recommend it. So if you want to, head over to sort of Baytown Wine, see my buddy Drew over at Baytown, and you ask him,
pronounce
hey,
his last name. Try it.
Shabbat.
Okay.
Shabbat. Did I get it?
I'm not gonna do it. I don't know. I'm not.
I'm pretty sure Shabbat. I'm pretty sure is it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Shabbat.
Everybody,
but yeah, that's my guy. My guy
Baytown,
Drew is wonderful. I've known him for years. Fellow Arsenal buddy of mine. Arsenal FC. Congrats to them on beating Real Madrid, by the way, and getting the PSG in the semifinals.
Stick to the wine.
No.
Caesar's a Real Madrid fan.
Yeah. I'm about to say he's about to have me
one of our
bugging over
biggest
here.
supporters.
I'm a Real Madrid fan. You talking crazy? I'm like, stick to the wine.
Hey, whatever happened to that remontada? Anyway, we're moving on from that. But at the end of the day, if you want to get an exceptional quality series of wines, he has some amazing wines coming out of there, and you can find a lot of those wines at Baytown Wines over in Webster.
Yes, and Andre Hueston Mack. We'll definitely tag his channel, socials, and information in the descriptions as well below. Mac, who knows? Maybe we'll get you on the pod one day.
Yeah.
And
that'd be fantastic.
Talk some more, kick it or whatever. We'll get you back on, and we'll
then
have a
also too, if you
conversation
ever
with him.
want anything in terms of like wine education, and you want it sort of taught to you in such a way, and you haven't sort of found my classes yet, which we'll talk about later, find his stuff on YouTube. He collaborates with a channel called Bon Appetit.
Bon Appetit, yep.
And he has very approachable, great wine videos that just go about not only from cheap to more expensive wines, but wines from around the world, educational stuff, and he's fantastic. So 100% shout out to you, Andre. You are absolutely fantastic, and we love you, man.
Check out Oregon if you guys get a chance. And without further ado, Free, let's jump back into it.
So before break, we broached a little bit about your I guess your initial tasting or love for wine,
introduction
to wine.
Yeah, man.
And so how did that start?
Turley Zinfandel, 2014, Pezenti Vineyard. My wife brings it home. He's like, hey, we need to have this wine for dinner. So we set up a date night in DC.
Very heavy wine too.
Very heavy wine, very
heavy.
rich, concentrated wine. It's got
Chewy.
a lot of that sort of like chewy jamminess quality to it. Again, you get these old vines, which is wonderful. So you can get from like 50 to 100 years old plus in terms of these wines. So they have, again, their wines are sort of deep into the ground. So very concentrated, very rich, very powerful wines. With a lot of that higher alcohol too. You're talking about, you're getting that 15%. So you're going to kind of feel a little bit, but with great winemaking, Tegan Pasalacqua, shout out to you and to your team out there at Turley. They know how to make it in such a way that still feels more refined on the palate. You don't feel as much of the alcohol that's sort of on it's there, but it's not as sort of like overtly powerful and like overwhelming. Also paired with really good food, it tends to help. So if you think of having your good barbecue, even having really good piece of meat, lamb, steak, whatever, it's going to really cut through a lot of that fat, which is absolutely fantastic. So I had this wine with my wife, absolutely loved it. Fireworks was happening. I was like, oh, I didn't know wine could taste like this. And even before then in DC, when you got, into your like sort of mid to late 20s, everyone's sort of doing better in terms of work. Everyone's getting a little more money. So instead of living in that, 5-person, row house somewhere, you now get the like nice 2-person apartment. You can host the little parties and events. And you can't just show up. I don't know if you know this, you can't show up with Keystone Light and Natty Light. And you got a little more space, but you'd have to, show up with some proper sort of alcoholic beverages. And more classier version of that was wine. So no box wines. Again, solid box wines that are out there. I haven't had many of them, but there are some good box wines out there. But you usually want to show up with a nice bottle with a nice bow in it to say you actually put in some effort to it. So DC had some great stores that had these like sort of 2 for $20 crate deals that would sit in the middle of the store. You show up, you pick out bottles, Monastrell, Garnacha, to Gewürztraminer, Riesling, things like that from all over the world. But because they get in these big crates, you can get them for a cheap price. So it's usually one bottle for 12, 2 for 20 kind of thing. And that's what you would show up with at these parties. So I would have these and they were all fine, but nothing really sort of exploded for me. And it wasn't until that Zinfandel that I was like, oh, this is different. This has got beautiful, jammy, rich fruit. It's got red fruit and dark fruit. It's got red licorice. It's got all these sort of flavors to it. That and it lingered. The after the finish on it was so long and it's so lingering, and it still had that little bit of heat burn towards the end there, but then you're kind of quelling it with the next sort of sip of that wine, and it's just stunning wine. So we signed up for the Turley mailing list sort of that that weekend, and that was my first love. So I have like about anybody's come over to my house, I have about 60 plus bottles of Turley wine. I've been a big supporter of them, and they do some amazing quality stuff. So that was my first one.
How was the transition where, your first wine, the Turley wine, but then from a professional level? Because it's levels, right? When did it kind of crank up a little bit with like, okay, this can really be an opportunity where I can go get certified, go get educated? How did that come about?
So again, I've talked about this before. Wine stores were my peaceful place, and going to see people like Matt at Pinnacle, Matt Yeager at Pinnacle Wine, and seeing Drew at Baytown, and even Matt Strassman out at Parkway. Just talking to them and just like interacting with people sort of in the industry and working in these wine stores, I was like, oh, there's a connectivity here that was coming out that was very natural. And then that May of 2023, when again finished my third MCAT, things weren't quite working out well. I took a full break, stopped working at RGH. I really had to sort of reflect and go, okay, what do I want to do next? And I was like, well, I know I always planned on taking the WSET. So I was like, well, let me do WSET level 2 in the fall. And I really got into it, and I got immersed, and I got, finished it with honors. That was great.
Can you sorry to interrupt. Can you explain what WSET is?
So WSET is basically the educational trust. It's like a wine and spirits educational trust. And they have multiple levels. They have level 1, which is like basically your standard level. You don't really know much about wine. It's the first one, easy taking. It's entry level. Here, entry level, here's Riesling, here's Chardonnay, here's all that kind of stuff. WSET level 2 is like, now let's start like talking about the regions, let's start talking about the climate, let's sort of like incorporate a little more into winemaking skills, winemaking process, temperature you serve wine, things like that. That's WSET level 2. And then level 3 is more immersive. You are basically taking a class for about 4 months, and you're tasting wine. You're tasting wines in level 2, but you're tasting them at a sort of higher level at level 3, and you're really starting higher level understanding. Yeah. So you're like really trying to evaluate. You're evaluating sort of color. You're evaluating aromatics and palate and quality of wine. So you're looking at balance, length, quality, aftertaste, things like that. You're really evaluating wines and trying to like sort of break down what makes a wine, go from, poor to good to very good to outstanding.
Okay.
And you're really trying to
producers.
Thanks for.
but then you're going exactly.
Never
You're
heard
going to
that.
producers. You're going into regions. You're going into winemaking techniques. You're going into like pruning techniques. You're going into harvest windows. Like you're looking at all of it. You're going basically
temperature,
from
soil, all that stuff.
everything.
Yeah,
You're going from the grape to bottle, and then everything before and after. You're going into wine laws. You're going into just everything about wine, and it's really in depth. It's very intense. But it was a very rewarding experience because you just learn so much, and you're like, oh, now that I look at a bottle, I can know so much about what I'm tasting, what I'm smelling, and appreciate it more. 100%. And you can pass that information along to anyone else as well who's asking, like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this producer and this wine and why this works in this region? And you could give them a very comprehensive view, but also make it very approachable too, which I absolutely love. So yeah, WSET 3. And then after that, if you want to keep going, you could do basically, there's a diploma level for WSET. So all the things that you learn from WSET 3, you basically do like a massive chapter or massive section on each one. So fortified wines is its own section. Like, I think red wines is its whole section. You do different sections and you take exams with blind tasting portions to it. And then you write like a whole essay at the end. It's really intense. People usually do it
by
about
like fortified. I mean like wines, you're adding like a port, like you're adding brandy, something like that.
100%
to it. So
yeah. So and it can get really intense. So I'm not going for the diploma. I'm transitioning out of WSET, and I'm going to be doing. I'm currently preparing for my wine specialist exam, and that's through the Society of Wine Educators. And you can potentially go into wine educator after that. And then you have sort of your quartermaster somm level where you do an intro, then there's certified, there's advanced, and then there's master, and that's a whole sort of section in itself.
Master somm is what the end goal.
No, my end goal is really the certified somm, maybe advanced somm.
Okay.
My whole thing is
there's a master diploma, right?
There's a master, there's a master, or there's like a master of wine, and then there's like a master somm, and there are different educational levels for that.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, that's fantastic. And if it was like, hey, honey, I want to like live in New York City for like 4 more years again and like work at like some of the best Michelin star restaurants in the world and pursue it at this level, you can totally do that. My whole thing is I want to start being an ambassador for wine right now, today. And as a part of that is doing everything that I can to like learn more about it and educate myself to be able to educate others. And I don't need to have a master level of wine to be able to do that. Sure. Right? WSET covers a really decent amount of it, right?
Yeah, it's a very roundabout.
It's very, and then what you start to learn about wine is it's a lot of self-study. I'm at home sort of clicking, YouTube videos. I'm reading books. I have, books given to me. I'm covering a book now that's covering sort of all the faults and gets into the really science and the minutia of faults in wine. And you start like sort of teaching yourself and going at your own pace. And that's what I love about being able to pursue wine, is that I feel like I'm doing it at my own pace. So even with the ADHD diagnosis, I have my moments where I can go full bore into a book for 2 hours, and the other time I'll read it for 5 minutes. I'm like, I'm checked out. I'm doing something else. But again, with the end goal of being able to educate other people and knowing that like I don't need every single certification to do that. I can do those things right now. I'm currently doing that right now. But the more I want to know is the more to be able to educate other people. And that's
so
what the
beautiful thing about it is the continuing educational aspect,
and
which is what I appreciate about it in my journey with WSET.
Absolutely.
It is the continuing education and almost like doing it at your own pace. And you have 100%. So many options to go different directions if and when you want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
yeah. There's no, and what's great about this too is there's no set pathway. There's no like, you need to get this, and this. You need to have this certification in order to be able to work at this, hospitality institution. Sure. It's like, oh, you love wine and you want to learn more about it. Do you want to educate? How much do you know? Do you want to educate other people? Well, here's some opportunities. And that's where, tying back into Living Roots, this is when December of 2023, after I finished WSET level 2, I was having a conversation with Colleen Hardy, who's the co-owner of Living Roots. And mind you, I've been with Living Roots for years. My wife used Living Roots as a way to convince me that there was civilization and life up here in Rochester. As well as, hey, look, I'm from the Bronx. Ask anybody in the Bronx where Rochester is, and they could not tell you.
She didn't convince you with that damn Vegemite.
No, she didn't. She did not convince me with the Vegemite. I will say, Colleen made me a stunning. So Vegemite is basically like this sort of spread that's from, or not even sort of a spread. It is a spread from Australia. That's very sort of salty, savory. It's got a somewhat an off-putting flavor, but I say you have to use a carbohydrate, like carbs, as a vehicle. So like a crescent roll or bread or something like that, brioche, something. Like you need to use that as a way to sort of get that into your palate. Anyway, so
that's a good segue. I want to, touch on the pairing the wine with food. I know that's a passion of yours. I've heard you talk a lot about it. And it's something that I always say, I'm a brother from Gary.
Yeah.
Tell me, educate me, and give us some water. I know you know, Marquis.
Yeah.
But how important, or the experience where you can have the right wine with the right food.
Correct.
Where it can just enhance your entire vibe.
I like to call it the peanut butter jelly effect. You know how like peanut butter and jelly go so well together?
Works well together,
When you get the good wine or a perfect wine and you pair it with something,
it's fantastic.
That's just so good or whatever. It's funny, like when I was still in the show before, don't forget the question. You mentioned the Turley wine and how heavy and chewy and bite, like it's a heavy wine, right? And it's amazing that that's your introduction, so to speak. We did the Portugal tasting a couple nights ago with AWS, and the great big brain Carl. Shout out to you, Carl. Love you, brother. He's doing the tasting, and I'm sitting next to his wife, and she's talking about how one of the gentlemen he's doing the hosting this coming week, his son, he says, I like a wine that disrespects me. And that's what I thought about.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's what I thought about when you said Turley, because Turley's one of those wines that's just like, damn. Like immediately, like you get that one. And so for that to be entry level, like, I like a wine that disrespects me. So Jan, thank you for that quote or whatever. I said I shared again. And that was like the perfect opportunity. I thought to myself, like, man, what a wine. Like,
you know what's the funny part about that? I am, even after Turley, I am the complete opposite. I want a wine that loves me. And what I mean by that is like, I want a wine that like when I'm smelling it, right? So it's like, again, it's like there's certain things that I'm looking for in terms of the scent of a wine. There's certain things I'm looking for in terms of the taste I'm looking for, but not only just flavors. I'm looking for, if it's a red wine, I'm looking for sort of tannins and how they're integrated into the wine. So tannins are coming in from, basically you can get it from stems, the seeds, and you can get it from the skins. Mostly for red wines, you're getting it from the skins. Unless you're doing a skin contact white wine, then you can get it from the skins that way, right? So there's certain elements that I'm looking for in a particular wine that I wanted to agree with my nose and my palate first.
Sure.
Because I'm also looking at, when I do pairings, I'm also looking at it from the patron standpoint. Like if I was a patron and I was sitting at this dinner, I want to be able to like really enjoy the wine and find the special in that wine first, and then see what the food is going to do in terms of, enhancing the flavors of that food.
Yeah. So, like, to that point, before the question, the parent, that's dope. Like, get into that. Like, tell us more
So
about that.
again, so I don't want to bore you with like sort of all the rules, and the rules are sort of like all over the place kind of thing.
Platform.
Yeah, no. So again, I teach a class at New York Kitchen called The Art of Pairing, and we talk a little bit about the rules, but the standard rules are basically there to be helpful in terms of understanding for pairing. So, when you have a dish that's got, a great salty sort of acid quality to it, you kind of want to match that acidity in the wine, right? Your higher acid wines are going to be things that are like your Rieslings, right? So Riesling is a fantastic wine that's from the Finger Lakes region. And especially your bone dry Rieslings are going to be sort of higher in acid. So you get that sort of like mouth watering sensation that's going to happen in your palate, right? Food can tend to lessen acid within the wine, right? So you want to make sure you don't want to have like sort of a fish dish. You don't want to have like a mackerel with a Pinot Grigio, right? Like it doesn't really work as well, right? Because the Pinot Grigio is not going to have that much acid to it. You want to have something that's got a little more soft acidity. Exactly, right? Like people talk about like muscadet with mussels and with clams, because those elements of it works together, right? You have the white wine that's got beautiful acidity, it's got beautiful citrus notes to it that's going to work with the acidity and the saltiness that's going to be sort of in that dish, right? There's things that you want to match when it comes to the elements of the wine versus with the elements of the food, right? Fried food. We talk about fried chicken. We talked about fried chicken earlier with the chicken out rock, which, by the way, shout out to you. Sparkling wine that has that beautiful effervescence to it, but also has a really high acidity. It cuts through a lot of that oil and the fattiness and the crispiness that comes in from fried food, right? So you need to have that. So having that understanding, but also then you start to realize too, like almost like high acid wines and also bubbles tend to go well with a lot of dishes as well. You can have bubbles with chicken. You can have bubbles with pasta. Like these things tend to like sort of work well together. It says now you're starting to look at the course of a dinner and going, okay, well, I really want to start off with a high acid or bubble driven wine first because I want to wake up your taste buds. I want to open up your palate. I want to get the juices flowing in your mouth so that when you're actually eating food, now you're ready to sort of entertain and enjoy all the dishes that are coming towards you, right? And then you're looking at, the body of a dish. So it's like if I'm looking at a fettuccine, right? If I'm eating a fettuccine Alfredo, right now that's going to be a dish that's going to have maybe a little more heft to it, right? It might have a savory herbal component to it as well.
Ain't no May. That's
so
definitely going to be healthy.
Right?
Hefty.
So now I'm looking at the body and the texture and the creaminess of that kind of food. Yeah, maybe I could do a Riesling, but I will actually be better off with something that's got a little more body to it. So looking at the Oregonia, right? That's going to have a little more body to it. That still has some really good acidity, but it's going to have a little more body. It's going to Chardonnay. It's more neutral, but it's going to allow the flavors of that wine to sort of really pop, right? You look at a Viognier from Rhone. That's got a little bit of that oiliness that might come through in a wine, but it still be masked by the sort of creaminess of a pasta dish, right? I tend to go old world, things like that. Yeah.
Let me ask this. So now, as you're eating and you're planning meals, it's kind of it seems like you're very aware, okay, we have this dish, but we have to get the wine and make sure we take it to that next level.
Sure.
It's not just, okay, we're going to cook this spaghetti.
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
We got to make sure we have the proper wine. Is that something that you really think about? Or is it?
Not all the time, because I like to turn off my brain sometimes, especially when I'm like at home with family. Like if there's ever a time when like my wife is like, hey, I want to have a wine with this food. And I'm like, hey, honey, what are you cooking tonight? And I want to, kind of figure out what she's in the mood for and like what I'm going to really pair well with certain dishes. We eat a lot of chicken in our house. So like I'm usually drinking a lot of wine. I'm looking for wines that have a little of that lighter body to it. So I like, especially when it comes to reds. So there's certain Pinot Noirs that I absolutely love. I like, my New World Sonoma Coast Pinot Noirs go really well with sort of the chicken dishes that we're pulling like out of the air fryer, which are fantastic. So we were talking about wine from Corsica. There's a great wine for Corsica. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically 100% Sangiovese. And it's got a little bit of that earthiness to it that actually goes well with a slightly more herbal quality in the dishes that we're eating at the time. And so that chicken is like a lemon herb chicken kind of thing. Even though it has that citrus note to it, it still can go well with sort of a lighter body wine that's got a little more texture to it that can sort of balance it out. So and what I love to say about rules, there's no full on absolutes like, oh, because I have a lean meat, I need to have this kind of wine, or because I have this kind of steak, I need to have this only type of red. You can still play around with it. It's just there's recommendations that we look at, right? Like I'm not gonna do, a certain like I'm not gonna do a Riesling with a steak, right? Steak's got a lot of fat to it. Like I want to be able to cut through the fat.
You cut that damn turley with it.
The turley will help, right? Because you get that crunchy, you got that jaminess that helps there. You have that fat that's going to cut through. It's got a bit of tannin to it as well, especially with a turley wine that maybe has even a little higher elevation to it. You're gonna have some of the elements of that wine that might cut through a little bit of that fattiness as well. So Brown Estate, another one. I talk about turley a lot, but Brown Estate, one of the first black wineries out in Napa. And I featured that in my BIPOC wine series. They do a blend. They do a blend called Chaos Theory, which is like they play around with it all the time. It's usually like a Zinfandel dominant blend. They also do blend. I did. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I don't pair it all the time, but it's one of those things where like I'm trying to get a catalog of black wines that I can like reference. That I'm like, if I have an opportunity in the future to support and add them into a wine list, I want to be able to do that.
No, and I'm not acting like facetious, like in that way or whatever. I'm always curious when I see, these wines that like you said, the black, like the Chaos Theory, Deadly Zins. I don't think that's not a black winemaker.
No, Seven Deadly Sins is like a mass produced.
Yeah, it's mass produced or whatever. I'm just thinking in that Zin flow of things. Really quick before we go on, you talked about champagne.
Yeah.
Coco Chanel said it best. I drink champagne on 2 occasions: when I'm in love and when I'm not.
I love that. I love that.
So his point was that
I love that.
time.
Dude, you can have champagne all the time.
If I can afford it, I drink it every day.
Hey, look, you get a Cremant de Bourgogne in the $20 range. You're talking about. I'm telling you, but again, it's basically champagne grapes that's not in that champagne region that you're making in France. And now instead of you spending $40-$50 for a champagne, now you're getting the same kind of elevated bubbles for about $20, right? Now we're looking at, okay, what about traditional method champagnes in different regions? Now you're looking at, Cava, for example, that's going to have, Zarello, Macabeo, and Parellada grapes. Right,
He flexing
that's something
on us, man.
that's a
He
little too much, right?
He
Right.
flexing.
I'm just,
I get it. I know.
I'm just saying, but like
flexing.
again, there are, it's like I'm always trying to look for the alternatives that are going to also be budget friendly, right?
Sure,
and there's
sure.
ways
I
to
did
do
notice that,
right?
especially in the tasting when we
Correct.
did at Baytown.
Yeah, 100%.
And I appreciate and
I look
respect
for.
that as well.
And those are things that customers and people ask me about. And when I tell them about a wine, they're like, "Oh, that's a little expensive." I want to make sure I have sort of like a more budget friendly option that I can always make a recommendation to. That's why I talk about this wine, which will be sort of in closer to that $40 price range. But then you think of the OPP, that's $18-20 right there.
I got it,
and it's a solid Pinot. So it's like having those options sort of ready to go and being able to tell people about it. I don't want to turn anybody off.
It cuts through the pretentious perception of what wine.
If there's
traditional,
I love that you said that. Is there anything that I'm trying to do? Is I'm trying to show that wine is not pretentious if you get your resources from the right people, right?
Sure.
I don't have, sometimes I throw the little pinky up every now and again, but that's, a little extra flex, but at the same time, right? But at the same time, I want to show you that like, not only do I know what I'm talking about, I want to introduce something that should bring everyone together, right? I feel like there's always been this barrier, at least from what I've seen in the wine industry, it feels like there's this barrier for patrons to feel like, I don't understand this wine. I don't know about this wine. I don't know who to talk to. I got to like Google it because I don't feel comfortable with asking questions. But there are people in this industry that want to bring people in, right? Wine is all about the social, the communion aspect of it all. And that's what I want to give to people every single time I talk to you, every single time I bring you into my space. I want you to always feel comfortable with asking me questions, with understanding wine, with knowing about pairings, but also just like knowing that you have a resource that you can always reach out to go, hey, I just want to know a little bit more about this.
So you're gonna be like the yellow pages and the white pages of wine.
That's honestly, ultimately, that's the goal.
I mean, that's
like, I want you to be able to, I have people sending me, I have a buddy of mine who's traveling right now, and he'll every now and again send me a text message like, hey, like I'm making this, dish. What should I pair with this? I'm like, hey man, I just tried this, Montepulciano out of Italy, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It'll go well with that dish. If you can find a store, go find this, find this bottle. Send a picture to them.
And that's important for people like me who's a very novice in the wine game for it not to be as intimidating. And I look at you and I can see you and relatable. Like, oh, what's a good option, and not being that whole pretentious with the thumb up, but
snooty
still
up,
at the same time appreciating something good to have.
I leave the velvet robe in the closet. I only take it out for special occasions. I don't just be, with the Ralph Lauren slippers. You know what I mean? The velvet. I leave
Purple
it.
Label?
I leave you, hey man, we gotta do what we can. But the key is though, you gotta make sure to put the shea butter on the ankles. That's the problem where you got to put you're greased up now. It's good. It's okay. You're greased up now. It's fine.
Now.
It's fine. But you know what I mean?
You just got to make sure.
You know what? Sprinkle me, Smoak. Sprinkle me.
You know what I'm saying? But you got to make sure you come correct. But
we're gonna get more into the wine and the happy hour. Do you have any more wine related? I know you probably have a lot.
But here's what
I wanted to.
But again, real quick, and I feel like I didn't get a chance to finish this thought. But again, speaking with Colleen at Living Roots, she got me on, and I was like, look, I've done the whole working. I used to work on the floor in the emergency department, sometimes running 3 areas at one time. I did the pacing around and moving and trying to operate and do all that kind of stuff. The tasting room is not where I shine. Tasting room is like, it's very much like the flow, and you get a chance to explain the wine for like 2 seconds, and then you're worried about busting that next table and cleaning that next glass. And it's like, that's not the flow for me. I was she was like, no. She was like, I see you as somebody that's, running our private tasting, somebody that's doing our wine education, as somebody that's like really sort of spreading the good word of not only just Living Roots wine, but also just wine in general.
And I want you to be comprehensive approach.
Correct.
Instead of just a one shot.
100%. And then creating that. And I also love the idea of creating that intimacy, right? Like I love that, like having that setting where we have no other influences involved. It's just me, you, and this wine. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let me educate you on it. And Living Roots opened that door for me. And then, Chef Mike at Rochester Supper Club brought me in and said, hey, I would love for you to be my somm, and let's work together. You come to many of my dinners. You actually bring good wines to my dinner. And I think we have a good dynamic together when we talk. Let's do this together. And we've been working together ever since, and that's been fun. And then, my recent collaborations with New York Kitchen is just taking everything to a new level. It's been absolutely fun to sort of be a part of this hospitality and service side of things, and feel like I'm actually making a contribution and making a difference. I love it so much.
Absolutely.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Really, really quick before. So Colleen, Living Roots.
Yes.
Right. So before I get into my last question, one of my two last questions.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to get her plugged in to get her on here or whatever, because if she's not going to come on or whatever, we're going to bleep her name out in every part of the edit, as far as
I'm pretty sure
shout
Colleen
out to you, Colleen.
No, Colleen.
We're just joking.
She's got a beautiful story. And again, Rochester native, grew up in Fairport, and found her way into the wine industry, and eventually found her way to Seb, who's 6th generation winemaker.
So we're
gonna we'll make it work. She's wonderful. I think she'll be great.
For sure.
But she was the she was the Kickstarter to making it happen.
Awesome.
And made me feel comfortable. And it's basically, been a rocket ship ever since.
So real quick, one of my last, that's the other part of the question. You talked a bit about Chef Michael.
Yep.
And your relationship with him. And
Love you, Chef.
Was it Rock Supper Club?
Yep.
What would you say was the most valuable lesson that you learned from Chef Michael and your experiences with him thus far?
Trust myself. Trust myself. It's
no hesitation.
No hesitation whatsoever. I'm telling you,
jumping out the window.
You feel like a fish out of water when you are starting to pair, because now you're like, well, what if people don't like it? What if they ask me a question that I can't answer about a wine? What if it really doesn't work? What if I like this pairing and somebody else doesn't? And
sure,
now people are just like, I've just ruined the experience for them. Like, my ultimate goal, as a som for him, is I want to make sure that his food gets highlighted in the best way possible. So having a good wine pairing makes that work. And, he, ever since working with him, he's always given me the go ahead. Like, I trust you 100%. You know what you're talking about. You know what you're doing. You're all about creating the right experience in the right moments. You are educated, you are talented, and you know your stuff. He's like, I fully believe in what you're doing. And he's never questioned a single decision I've made.
Awesome.
And not only the trust in myself of choosing wine, but also the trust in me of being critical when I think, there's something that is off about a dish that he made. Whether it's the plating of it, whether it's the flavor profile, whether I think it's something off in terms of the seasoning and the flavor and things like that, he's trust me to go, hey chef, I feel like there's something missing here. I think there's a seasoning aspect, or there's an herbal aspect component. I feel like it's off for this. Like, I don't think the plating of this looks so great. Is there, any way we can improve this? Is there any way we can change? Hey, there's a wine that I really want to pair with this that I think will go well, but the heat level on this is an 8. Can we bring it down to a 4 or 3?
Yeah.
And then I think this pairing will kill. And he's 100% trusted me. And we have, every single opportunity we've had to have a dinner together has hit it out of the park because of his trust in me. And it's been wonderful. I that's my brother. I love him to death, man.
Autonomy is important, fantastic. And it seems like you have that. That's my voice. It's great.
Yeah. Are you choking up because of our relationship?
Choking me up, man. You choking me up.
You went back to ABC.
I know, he really did. He really did.
So I have 2 questions, and we'll wrap it up with Marquis' last question. Besides us being 3, handsome brothers here.
Hey.
With glasses.
Hey.
With hoodies.
Blind is all get out. We blind.
Man.
When
we put the glasses on, it's superpower. Hey, don't let's take these glasses off.
One thing
we do have in survival. I might hit somebody.
one thing we have in common, we are all fathers.
Yes.
Real quick, tell us how fatherhood has changed your life.
Hey. Oh man, it has just made me a better person, better human, better husband, just a better person, because of the fact that, like, I know I have someone, like, not only just my wife, but I have my son to go home to that looks up to me for advice, for guidance, for strength, for support. Just having him in my life has been absolutely incredible, man. I love my son to death. He's, Amani Kofi. I love him, man. He's every time he, when I say I love, because now we're at the point where I tell him every single day, I tell him I love him.
Yeah.
And again, shout out to my mother. I love her. She's the strength to get us through, to get us out of the Bronx has been wonderful. But she didn't say I love you a lot to me. So I knew that when I saw him, when I held him for the first time.
You, Smoak.
I know, I appreciate that. I love you too. But to say that to him, every single day has always been a blessing, to see him grow, to see him mature. to see the lessons that I teach him in terms of, being respectful to other people, to being encouraging to his friends, to not, he's at a tennis lesson today. He got a little discouraged and down on himself. I'm like, buddy, you're doing it well. You just gotta keep practicing. That's why we're here to practice. He's like, all right, Dad. And he'll like get up and try it again. And just to like see him sort of, just to see him pick himself up and just be like, I'm gonna go after it again. And just to see his improvement in terms of not only just language, but interaction with other people, it's stunning. And just to know that I'm a part of that and I'm allowing for that to happen is just, and it just makes everything that I'm doing now in the wine industry feel that much more encouraging and that much more sort of positive, because I know I'm not just doing this for myself, I'm doing this for my family too. And it's so rewarding in that process. So
awesome.
Absolutely, man.
Last question. We ask everyone.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would this Smoak give a younger Smoak? What would you tell your younger self?
Get your ADHD testing earlier. No.
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 What I would tell, man, I've never been asked that question before. That is crazy. What I would tell my younger self, man, I hope you can edit this, because I honestly,
we can
I mean, honestly, it's one thing I've learned is to try, like, stay true to yourself.
Okay.
Stay true to yourself. There is, as I've grown up and as I've interacted with people and I've lost friends and I've gained friends and lost acquaintances and gained acquaintances, what I've realized is that authenticity is so real to me, so important.
Sure.
When these cameras are off and the mics are shut down, you're still getting the same Smoak. You're still getting the same Shomari, however you know me, right? And that is something that, like, you can't fake the funk, is what I always tell people. You can't fake the funk. I want to make sure to always stay true to yourself in everything that you do, because that's what's going to drive you, and that's what's going to carry you for the rest of your life. That authenticity, and that's always going to show through in everything that you do.
Yeah.
And there was times throughout my entire life where I doubted myself, and I probably lost out on opportunities because I didn't trust myself in who I was. And now that I'm older and now that I'm more established and now I got the gray hairs and the balding cap and all that kind of stuff, I'm realizing that authenticity is really what drives me, what pushes me, what allows me to connect to people, and feels like every single day, no matter it's Monday to Sunday, you are getting the same authentic version of me every single time. I want to continue to do that, not only for myself, for my family, for the connections that I make, and continue to build that, because I want you to get that. I want you to always get that true, genuine authenticity that I bring to the table. And I hope.
Well, you definitely bring it, and we appreciate. We have great off-camera conversations, so it's always 100. Before we leave, tell us what you have going on, how people can get in contact with you to be a part of your Smoak experience.
Oh man, my sphere of influence, man.
Shout out to Living Roots, by the way.
Hey, Living Roots. This is the old. No, man, this is mine. No, this is the OG one. I carry this as I almost consider this kind of like my lucky corkscrew.
You should have lied on camera and said yeah.
No, man, this is mine.
Hey, look, you just said I'm keeping it authentic.
I know. Do you want me to cut the? Yeah, man, you could totally have my corkscrew.
Yeah. No, start talking crazy about him after the fact.
No. But you can find me at Living Roots. I'm doing wine education. I have a class coming up, mystery wine tasting classes, every fourth Wednesday of the month. So if you want to learn more about wine and you want me to sort of like, demystify everything about wine and learn how to taste wine blind and things like that, come to see me on Wednesdays. If you want to do private tastings with me on Saturdays, come through that, sign up with us at Living Roots. It's fantastic. The big thing I'm working on right now, our big project, is Chef Michael and I from Rochester Supper Club. We are doing our Art of Series pairing dinners. We just finished one this past week for Portugal. We are doing one that is sold out on France, and then our final one that is coming up on June 13th is going to be all New York focused. So we're probably going to do some like sort of American contemporary food with beautiful New York wines, and have people have that understanding that you can do there's some really great New York wines out here, from Dr. Constantine to Red Tail Ridge to even Living Roots. Like
the missus loves Constantine, by the way.
It's fantastic stuff, man.
Semi-Riesling.
Semi-Rieslings are good. And again, semi-Riesling, just because it's got a little residual sugar doesn't mean it's bad. And that's for my black folk out there to understand that. Just because you like a little sweetness in your wine doesn't mean that's a bad thing. We got to let people know that that's completely okay.
Yeah.
the other things I'm working on too. We have a dinner, Living Roots in Angelina's on South, coming up on May 13th, which is a Tuesday night. It's going to be called the Roots Dinner. So Chef Stephen Lara, who's absolutely incredible, is going to be doing sort of authentic multi-course Aussie fare paired with our Australian wines coming out of Australia, which is absolutely wonderful. So
cool.
Seb and Colleen, co-owners, Seb the winemaker, is going to be there. It's going to be a wonderful time. We're going to commune together. We're going to eat together, dine together. It's going to be a wonderful, fantastic stuff as well. And then of course, follow me on Instagram, Wine with Smoak, SMOAK, Wine with Smoak. I'm always giving updates of all the things that are happening with me, as well as, wines that I'm tasting and people that I'm collaborating with, including Water from the Rock.
Absolutely.
And just making it happen. So I hope that, again, as I talk about, always authenticity. You can always DM me. You can always find me somewhere. You're going to see the same Smoak every single day, all day.
I have a feeling this will not be your last time on our podcast.
Oh, we're going to be back.
Right.
We're going to be back. It's going to be everything. And I'm finished off here with this quote. I talked to, you had Chef Cruz Nieves on here, and I love Chef Cruz. Shout out to
that's the homie.
Chef Restaurant. Not only just Chef Cruz, but also Chef Marco, to Chef Maddie. You guys are absolutely wonderful. You killing it, doing wonderful things out there.
The entire shell.
I wanted to find some motivation for the year, because I don't know if you know about Chef Cruz. He's he does ultra marathons. He's training.
I know about Chef Cruz.
He does all the things.
Wouldn't drink from me. He wouldn't drink a bottle of wine with me because he had to run in Menden.
We did a dinner
together.
We did a dinner together last year. And I brought all these beautiful wines to pair with this beautiful. I did a dinner for a friend of ours, Maggie Connor. It was her 40th birthday, and it was at her house. And she was like, Shomari, I want you to do the pairings for this. And Chef gave me the menu. I did the pairings. It was wonderful. He didn't taste any of my wines that night because he was like on a health kick that moment. I was like, not even a sip.
Focus.
I was like, Chef, this
Gotta
is like
respect
this
him.
is $150 Barolo there. This is
locked
a
in. He
this
locked
is a
in,
soft
though.
turn from 2001. What are we talking about? But
Well, not only that, he's the Shell restaurant brick and mortar has been in the makings for over a year. So he's been locked in.
He's
and
been
focused
locked in,
on all of
ready
that.
for it. And
So,
I've been supporting and I support everything that those guys do. And one thing that I reached out to him, I was like, man, I need some motivation for this. And I need something that's going to encourage me to get me sort of through this year. What should I focus on? And he gave me this quote, and I've been following it ever since. He said, consistency and collaboration. What that meant for me was, trying to stay consistent in terms of everything I'm doing, whether it's, content, whether it's, working with other personalities, working with other wineries, like sort of being as consistent in it as possible, not only consistent in sort of collaborations, but also consistency in thought, consistency in execution, education. Having that consistency was very important, and collaboration, having opportunities like this, where the brothers call me up and it's like, Smoak, we want you to do a podcast with us. I'm like, I'm there. Figuring those things out and trying to find my way to collaborate with as many people, whether small businesses to big businesses in this region, and trying to put Rochester on the map. Shout out to Flower City Kicks for my sweatshirt. I wanted to show them to love for sure, but I'm just happy that the city has blessed me and adopted me and made me sort of one of their own. And
welcome home, Smoak.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming. You are an inspiration to us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
When I see you, I see my brother. I see my friends, my cousin. I see my son. You're providing a lane that I can say, hey, James and Mason, I know somebody who looks like you, who's doing something that we normally don't do. So I want to tell you, what you're doing is impacting me as a father. So
many more
keep it up. And I'm, brother to brother, man to man, I'm proud of you, bro.
I appreciate it, man.
So thank you.
I appreciate
I'm proud
it.
of you as well. I'm proud of you as well,
Smoak.
Smoak. And again, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you got nothing, I think you said it all. You took over a lot of what, like, as far as the ending and everything or whatever, which is great. But I mean,
do you
have anything else for us before we get up out of here, man?
I'm blessed.
Stay tuned for the happy hour special as well.
I'm telling you, I'm blessed. I mean, I'm highly favored. I am so honored to be a part of this. I'm so honored to just be not only just in the presence of greatness, but also just being in a city that has really taken me in and has shown me so much love.
For sure.
And I feel so encouraged by every move that I make, every opportunity that I have. And I'm just grateful that I can continue to be a blessing to other people. And that's ultimately what I want to do, man.
We appreciate that, man.
It's wonderful, man.
We appreciate
Ladies and
that, and we
gentlemen.
appreciate you. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, Shomari Smoak.
Thank you.
Man, what a way to kick off season 3. We end with a dap.
Man.
We end with a dap.
One there,
Appreciate
one
it,
back. And on that note, I am one half of your host, Marquis.
I am the other half, Free Mel.
And this is the Water from the Rock podcast. Catch you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.